Tonight we're going to meet a human laboratory experiment, all right? A young man who has spent almost all of his 23 years in foster homes. Now, he claims he's been victimized and abused by our nation's foster care system. But on the other hand, our little victim here has an October 18th date with the big house, 15 to 30 years for purse snatching. This guy either needs a new lawyer, somebody's not telling old Uncle Morty the whole story. Now, should this show be dedicated to the freeing of Roger Peck? Well, follow me tonight, and we'll all find out together. Join us. No one at Loudmouth 1, no one at Loudmouth 2. One guest at home base in this segment, Roger Peck. Roger, for the benefit of our audience here and our folks at home tonight who are not really familiar with your story, briefly tell us how you came to be a foster child and what that experience was like for you.
The first thing I remember was being in a foster home. I asked my social worker what happened to me, where my parents. He told me they were bank robbers and that they found me in the snow eating out of a garbage can when I was 3 years old. The sheriff's department found me.
I understand that when you were only in the 6th grade now, the state placed you in a mental institution. What prompted them to do this?
They said they ran out of foster homes to put me in. I was a bad kid in school, but I always did my homework for passing grades. But they considered me like an outcast. I was in a small town. And like teachers, for instance, in 3rd grade, they put me in a box. They put a box around me because they said I was going to contaminate the whole class. So they put a box around me, so even when I stood up, I couldn't see over the top of the box.
How were you going to contaminate the class?
Because I was a foster child. I was going to contaminate the class.
Raj, isn't it true that while you were in this mental institution, though, you attempted suicide?
Yes, I did.
And ironically, it was at that point that the state placed you back into the foster system that had already victimized you.
That's right.
They ever give an explanation why they did that?
No, they didn't.
How many foster homes were you in?
28.
28. Did any of the other people abuse you sexually, physically, mentally, any other way?
I'd say physically and mentally they did.
Not sexually?
Not sexually.
How would they abuse you physically?
Well, it was like, for a couple of them, it was like they'd get foster kids to punch them around. It seemed like to me, because like this one lady, she used to beat me all the time for no reason. I mean, like, I'd look the wrong way and she'd start beating me.
You know, you were no angel.
No, I wasn't.
Isn't it kind of true that you stole 2 cars from your foster families?
This is true.
Why did you do that?
That was the first foster home that they put me, when they put me out of mental institution, and they put me in the black lady and the Puerto Rican man. When they said they were going to kick me out, I said, okay, fine. I started to rebel. I said, okay, you're going to kick me out? I went out the door and I came back and got the keys and got in the car and took off.
Where'd you take off to?
I wasn't taking off to nowhere special. I was just taking off. I said, they're going to kick me out.
Did you leave the car or did you get caught with it?
The state police pulled me over.
How much after you took the car?
Oh, it was about not even 2 hours afterwards.
So your foster parents had seen you take the car?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Now, you've been in 28 foster homes. Were all these families so horrible and so vicious that you had to be continuously transferred from one home to another?
Well, sometimes it wasn't...
You tell me 28 were bad or 27?
No, I'd say 16 were good, the rest were bad.
Well, why did you get transferred out of the 16 then?
I really couldn't tell you that. I would come home once the second foster home I was in, they were taking me to adopt me up in Scranton, Pennsylvania. They took me to this big building. I thought it was an adoption agency. They put me in the room. I was like 8 years old. And I was sitting in the room, and they walked out. And a psychiatrist came in and said, I said, what's going on? Are they going to adopt me? What's going on? He said
Did you want to be adopted?
They told me I was going to be adopted.
Yeah.
And the psychiatrist came in and said, the family has left. Your social worker will be here in about 15 minutes. I said, what do you mean they left? He said they decided they didn't want to adopt you.
That's how they laid it on you?
That's how they laid it on me.
Simple question. Does the foster care system work or not?
It didn't work for me, and everybody that I know that's been in it, it hasn't worked for.
All right. We're going to talk to some other people who have been involved in the foster care system. As a matter of fact, we will confront the supporters of a system that destroys this country's children. It apparently has destroyed this young one's life. Stay with us. Come on. We've got some new players for you. Zibit. Got some new players for you in this segment. Let me introduce them. Of course, we still have our gentleman, Roger Peck, here at home base with us. We have Barney Sackett, who was a theater owner, who is with us tonight at home base. And I might add a very, very philanthropic gentleman who's tried very hard to save this young man from some of the problems he's had. We also have Greg Amundson, who is an attorney who defends the foster care system. With us at loudmouth number 1, we have, I believe it's probably Barbara, you're Sue over here, all right. Sue Dondiego, advisor to the New Jersey Foster Parents Association, and Barbara Kenyon, who's a foster child and a foster parent. With us at loudmouth number 2. Barney, let me start with Barney Sackett. We are witnessing, I think, so far, the tragic tale of a foster system gone kind of wild. As Roger's savior, do you see any redeeming value in today's foster care system?
All I know is what I've seen through Roger and talking to the woman who was in charge of the Montrose social service where he came from. I want to give you an example of what this woman is like. When I got to know Roger back in December of 1986, became interested in this case, God bless you, I decided to get all the information that I could about this young man. I called the social services, and they said, if you want information about him, he has to sign an affidavit saying it's okay at poverty.
How old was he at that time?
He was then, this is back in 1986, he was then 21. He's now 22. He'll be 23 this September. Right. And so I contacted the woman who was in charge of social services up there, and after I became friendly with her, she then said to Roger, I don't want this man calling me anymore. He asked me too many embarrassing questions about the social service system. Now, you have to picture this. At one point, only a few months ago, Roger called her on the telephone and said, I want to know why you ruined my life. She says, what are you talking about, Roger? And I was on the other extension listening. So you put me into an all-black foster home. Why? Her exact words were more, Roger, you have to understand something. I was only 23 when I started handling your case. I had to learn somehow. And Roger's exact words were, what, at my emotional expense? All I know about the social services is what I tried to find out through her, and she then refused to talk to me anymore, trying to find out why he went into so many homes.
How did you become interested in Roger's case?
By accident. I wandered into a restaurant in Philadelphia called Pete's on 17th Street. Mm-hmm. There was one empty chair, or rather a stool, at the counter. As I sat there, this waitress is saying to this young man, so I'm sitting to my left, okay, big spender, what's it going to be? And here he is with a menu, and I could see he didn't have much money to spend, so I couldn't said to him, no money? And he says, oh, very little. I said, I'll make you a proposition. And looks at me very carefully and says, what kind of a proposition? Yeah, what kind of a proposition? And I said, I'll buy you anything you want, hamburger, cheeseburger, fries, on one condition. Yeah, what's the condition? You go right home before the police arrest you. He says, what do I do? I said, my God, you're underage. They'll pick you up at Saturday night. He says, how old do you think I am? And I said, 14, 15, because they looked like that 2 years ago. And he says, mister, I'm 21 years of age. I said, then why aren't you working? He said, he got a job for me? And I said, what can you do? He says, nothing. And I said, well, tell me something about yourself. I might have a job for you.
So then he related his background and story.
Yeah, for the next 2 hours sitting at the counter.
What'd you do from that point on?
From that point on, he walked me back to my place. I owned a theater in Philadelphia called the On Stage. He was living at his black foster brother at the time, at 45th, I believe, and Walnut Street. He walked me back because it was only 3 blocks away from where I was. And he stops in front of my door and he says, is this your office? I said, yes. You meet me here at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Because I had another kid on my premises whose foster parents didn't want him. A 15-year-old boy who was running a teenage nightclub for me at my place. And he was thrown out of his place. And I took him on my premises, and the foster parents said to me, we don't want him. We are burnt-out kids. I said, well, you can't let him on the street. So I let him live in my computer room. So Roger said the magic word to me at the counter that night. He said, I was in Vision Quest for 18 months. And I said, my God, I've heard about that. You know what that is, Mort, where they take kids, so-called incorrigibles, they put them out in teepees, they send them across the country in wagon train. I said, if you can get this young boy into Vision Quest, you've got yourself a job. So when he walks me back, I remind him that 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, you're going to meet this kid. He says, well, how do I know tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock you're going to be here? Let me fill out an application now. So about 1 o'clock in the morning, he comes up to my office and fills out an application, December the 6th, 1986. Just to remember that I remember him the following morning at 10 o'clock. And the next morning at 10 o'clock, he met this young boy, who had his young friend with him staying at my place at the time.
Okay.
And he got him into Vision Quest exactly 6 weeks later, even though it was a waiting for about 2 years, we understand. But he called Rick up in Erie, I believe it was, and told about this kid. They liked Roger. They remembered him from being Vision Quest, and that's how he got on. That's how I became involved with this guy.
All right, very interesting. Greg, let me ask you. You're quite outspoken in the area of defending the foster care system in this country. In fact, you've dedicated your life to it. Don't you feel kind of awed at what this system is really all about when you hear a story like this?
Well, what I hear is not just an attack of the foster care system. What Roger's telling us is he's not only attacking, and not only did he have a failure in the foster care system, the courts failed him, the schools failed him, his social workers failed him, and 56 people failed him through 28 foster homes. I tend to wonder after a period of time if part of the blame is in Roger's also. The purpose of a foster parent is just to give you a stable home environment. They don't expect you to be a psychiatrist. They don't expect you to be a neurologist. They don't even expect you to be a social worker.
Do some people take in foster children just to get money from the county?
In County of Los Angeles, a foster parent is paid $9.80 for a child between the ages of 0 and 4. If you have a child over
Per
the age...
year?
Per day, $9.80. It works out to be $293 per month. You can't bring up an infant on less than $300 a month. It works out, and also remember, foster parents work 24
Why don't you
hours
tell
a
that
day.
to the welfare system that allows you $9 for each additional child you have? Doesn't seem to be very, very congruous there, does it?
You're not making a profit bringing up a child on $9 a day. It works out to be 41 cents an hour for an average foster parent. They don't
If you
do
bring
it for
in
money.
5 or 6 foster children, what happens then?
You bring up 6 children on $60 a day, that's impossible.
6 children on $60 a
Right.
day?
Many of the foster parents in the county of Los Angeles handle drug babies or
Well, I
AIDS
think
babies.
you're a little unrealistic. I think there's a lot of people in this country bringing up 6 children on $60 a day.
Well, I think that you can't bring out... You can't bring up a child that's an infant between 0 and 4 years of age on that little amount of money. That's the reason. Maybe you can do it adequately. They're not making a profit off these children. It's a ludicrous argument to say they're making profit off these foster children.
Let me go to Sue Dondiego. Sue, Roger's story is not a new one, all right, for our ears. I'm sure you've heard it before, as many people have. In fact, we've heard these types of stories for just about too long. How have you and your system allowed for the exploitation and mistreatment of America's children?
I think what our association has done is try to change the system, and that's where our efforts are. Years ago in foster care, there was no emphasis on permanency, that moving children from home to home, they didn't realize the damage it did, not only to the child.
28 of them in a mental institution.
That's right. Okay, so what we did was, at least in New Jersey, we met with our agency. We put our emphasis on permanency. If a birth family cannot care for their child and there's no chance of reunifying that family, then in foster care, they try to do what they can to see that that child makes it in foster care so that foster child doesn't bounce from home to home.
You know, I'm going to relate a story to you that I'm familiar with in California. Right? Young man who did my show 2 years ago, 21 years old, girlfriend 16, underage, pregnant, had a baby, wanted to marry him, he wanted to marry her. The state took her from the parents, claiming that the parents were irresponsible parents, and placed her in a foster home with her baby. Stayed in that foster home for 1 year, pleading to get out. I had her on my show a couple of times, had the kid on the show on the phone. They couldn't get anyplace else. Told the kid he'd be arrested if he went near the child. He never got the child out, but indeed, she got pregnant again from the foster father. All right? From the foster father. Now, what the hell kind of a judicial system do we have that allows this to happen when the pleadings have been made that she's being raped, that she's being abused, and they pay no attention because she's only 16, and she already has an infant?
Okay, it's not only the judicial system. How...
Judge, I know you're probably watching tonight, you slime ball. I hope you know what's going on.
I would have to ask, what kind of a screening process does California have for its foster parents? What kind of an evaluation do they do? Do they visit their homes? Do they evaluate their
You do all
homes?
these things in New Jersey?
Yes, we do.
How often do you visit their homes?
The caseworker, I don't. I'm a foster
How
parent.
often does the caseworker visit the home?
The caseworker is mandated to visit the home at least once every 6 months. Usually it's more than that when they...
I mean...
I'm saying mandated.
If the Orkin man visited my home that little, I'd be overrun by bugs.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying what they're mandated. What they do is different, and it is more often. It depends on the type of child you have, what kind of services you need, and what that child
How many
needs.
foster children do you let a family have?
No more than 5, and I'm looking at Barbara to make sure I'm
No more
correct.
than 5, provided they have no children of their own. Barbara, let me ask you. You're one of the lucky few who made it through the system. Are you a mainstream example of the foster care system, or are you a unique product of that system?
I don't think I'm unique. I think that the media tends to highlight the negative aspects of somebody when they've come into the highlight with a crime. They hit the headlines, and along with any criminal behavior, you also see 17 foster homes, 3 mental institutions, whatever. It's very unlikely that presidents of organizations or people with successful lives also has gotten themselves into the media attention that says, oh, and by the way, they also have a former foster child background.
All right, Roger, let me come back to you a second. Greg here would have us believe that the reason foster children like yourself have been constantly moved from family to family is because you victimize some very decent foster parents. Are you a victim or a victimizer?
I'd say I was a victim before they put me in a mental institution. They took me out of school. I never committed a crime, never skipped school. The teacher said there's a lot of other kids they'd rather take out of school and kick them out. But they took me out of school for no reason, take me to court, and get me committed to a mental institution. The judge wouldn't go for to put me in the mental side. He said, just put him on the maximum security side. I had never committed a crime, not one crime yet. What did I do? Nothing. They just took me out, put me in there,
Did they have
drug
you
me
on-
up with
did they have
Thorazine,
you on
shot me with
Ritalin?
needles and Thorazine. Now, what did I do to deserve that?
What,
I
are you
victimized the
telling me
family?
that you didn't drop out of school?
They took me out of school. They took me
What's
out
the
of the
highest
sixth grade
grade of
and put me in
education?
there.
So your highest grade, 6th grade
That's
education?
sixth grade, because I didn't get to go to school after that. They made
Okay.
me quit when I came
Let me
back.
ask you a question. After you turned 18, did you ever enter another school after that?
No, I've studied for my GED. I'm ready to take
Have
my
you got
GED.
it? And how old are you now?
I'm 23.
So in the 5 years since you got out of the foster care system, you haven't entered one school, you haven't even got a high school education, you haven't pursued any education whatsoever. Don't you think you have a responsibility to do this?
Excuse me. Let me tell you how they put me out in the street. When I was 17, they certified me as an adult and took me. I had $2 in my pocket and five pairs of pants. They kicked me out of took me out of the foster home and took me to court, certified me as an
But
adult,
that's
and
what
threw me
you
in the
wanted,
street.
isn't it? You wanted to get
No,
out
I
of the
didn't.
system.
I wanted to get a job.
All right, I'll tell you what we'll do. Next, Roger Peck, victim or victimizer? We'll let you and our audience here decide. Stand by. Apparently what we're listening to tonight is a really horrid story, if not the entire foster care system being a little amok, certainly in individual cases destroying a life. This is what the evidence points to at this point. We're joined by an additional guest at Loudmouth number 2, Bridget Giordano, who I believe is Roger Peck's girlfriend. Is that right, Bridget? How are you? All right, we're supposed to have Louis Savino here with us tonight. He has not shown up yet. He is Mr. Peck's attorney, apparently demonstrating his legal prowess as well as he did in the courtroom when Roger got 15 years. But Roger, you know, do me a favor. Would you claim that the foster care system that so brutalized you has also led you to a life of crime?
When they kicked me out in the street, what was I supposed to do?
well, what a lot of other people do when they are
I
out
didn't
in
have
the
no
street.
education. I didn't know what to do. I'm not going to blame it all on them. I'll take 40% of the blame. I could have got a job, but I didn't know. I didn't think I was.
Well, do me a favor. Level with the audience here, all right?
I
Level
could've-
with the audience. I want you to come clean to them and list every criminal activity you've been accused of.
Come clean with you. Drug dealing, homicides.
But no convictions.
What?
Oh.
You let me speak? Robberies,
Prostitution,
prostitution,
car theft.
car thefts, and stick-ups.
That's one I didn't have, Roger. Thank you. All right, that's coming clean.
Were any of these involving the foster parents? Were the foster parents ever victims in any of
The
these
car
crimes?
thefts were foster parents.
Right.
Was the prostitution with foster parents?
No.
Any of the murders?
No.
How about the drugs?
No.
Robbery?
No.
Okay. Armed robbery?
Yeah. No, not with them.
Not with foster parents. All right, whether the armed robbery was what, of grocery stores or things?
No, it was of a drug dealer that he lied on me. When he went to court, the case was thrown out. He was a cocaine dealer, and I walked up to him, and I said, look, I got a big buy for you. And I took he gave me a half-ounce of cocaine to sell, and I turned around and sold it. And I said, I'm not giving the money to him. Excuse me, my language. I said, I'm not giving you no money.
I never use that kind of talk, so that's really disturbing to me.
Excuse me. So you can't have the money, I'm keeping this. And he turned around and went and told the police I stuck him up with a gun for $1,700. When I went to court, my lawyer said to him, if you don't drop these charges and tell the truth, my client's going to go up there and tell the truth, and I'll go take him to narcotics and tell the truth about him. And he decided he dropped the case because he didn't want narcotics investigating him.
All right, now you've been convicted by a jury of your peers for purse snatching, and you face a minimum sentence of 15 years in jail. Did you commit that crime?
I never snatched purses in my life. I used to sell drugs. I wasn't a good person, so I admit that. I wasn't a good person between the ages of 17 and 21. I wasn't a very good person.
When did you become good? When Barney got a hold of you?
But that's about 6 months before that. I quit doing drugs. I quit, I was looking for a job. I went back to live with my foster brother. He has a girlfriend. He had his own house, and he was letting me live in his basement. And it was the first solid place that I was living since I got certified as an adult. And he had a job, and I looked up to him, and I said, look, I got to get myself a job. Let me live here. I'll get off. I quit the drugs overnight. I quit cold turkey. I was shooting drugs. I stopped overnight. I didn't. That's right. Overnight. I wasn't on heroin. I was on speed and coke.
The thing that bothers me is if he's dealing drugs, what's a foster parent supposed to do if they're supposed to take care of 5 other kids and they know one of their 6 kids is dealing drugs out of their own house?
Oh,
No. I wasn't dealing drugs.
You
They
never
put me
dealt
on the
any
streets.
drugs? You never dealt any drugs while you're in a foster home?
No, I did
You
drugs.
never
but I
sold to any other children in the foster home itself?
No.
All right. Let me go to... wait a second, Roger. You signed a confession, I believe, to that purse snatching.
This is true.
Now you're claiming you're innocent. Help me understand that situation, will you?
Cops beat me up.
Anyone take pictures of the beating?
Yes, I did. Yes, they did.
You took pictures? You had pictures of that
I
beating?
had pictures of the beating. I went to the hospital and got, they gave me Tylenol with codeine as soon as I got out on bail to relieve the headaches. I was having severe headaches. I was pissing blood. Excuse my language. I keep, I was on TV. I went to the public defender's office. They took pictures of my back. They had a thing on my back this big, and swollen up and was black and blue from where they were hitting me with a pistol.
How in the name of God did this fantastic defender of yours who has decided not to show up tonight, how in the name of God did you get a 15-year sentence for your first conviction?
Wait a minute. He has not been sentenced yet.
I've just been convicted.
Yes,
I've just been convicted.
He has not, but...
I understand
if
that the conviction is going to bring a 15
That's
to
right,
30
if he
year
gets
sentence.
convicted. However...
He's been convicted.
No,
Right.
he's
I've
been
been
found
convicted.
guilty. Now the sentencing comes up. But in the meantime, Rogers reported the beatings of the same detective who beat him up on 3 different occasions for the purse snatching did not happen to Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs has now been investigating this case. When we started getting publicity for Roger, that we had witnesses that came in from California, I'm talking about...
You brought witnesses in from
5
California.
expert witnesses. One was formerly attorney for the Capitol Records. One is the former president of the Foreign Press Association in Hollywood that puts on the Golden Globes. One is Stan Can, the comedian. One is the building superintendent of the building in which we stay. The 5th was a man who has a distribution company. They came in and testified. We were all called liars
Came in and testified to what?
That he was in California when the crimes were committed in Philadelphia.
What were you doing in California if you're working for Barney?
I was
He's
out
with
there
me.
learning how to sell his lens. I was with him. He took me out there on business
Learning
to learn how to sell the lens.
I also own a lens company called Supervision, and he was out there because we had given demonstrations to a man named Burt Ward, the Robin of Batman and Robin.
Could you testify that he was out there also?
Certainly did. We
You
had
had-
airline tickets. We had
You had the
airline
airline
tickets.
tickets.
That's right. They didn't believe the airline
You had the
tickets. Howard.
stubs.
We had the stubs. They didn't believe
With
that.
all the names on.
With all the names on. That's correct.
Barney,
And plus the witnesses. Yes.
you all make the case that Roger was a victim of the foster care system in this case, all right? Are you now making the case that he's a victim of the legal system as well?
Let me tell you something about the legal system in Philadelphia, Mort. The prosecutors are out to prosecute, not to find you innocent. I have offered the tape. I lied.
That, of course, is the job of a prosecutor.
That
to
is
prosecute.
correct.
You know.
But I have offered to take a lie detector test. Roger's offered to take a lie detector test. My 5 witnesses have offered to take a lie detector test. The district attorney's office has refused to give us a lie detector
We
test.
all know that's inadmissible in court.
Correct. But it will also show how honest this whole situation was,
Would
that
it
he was
show
in
that, Barney? I took a lie detector test on my second or third show that I did here after telling the story of my going on a space vehicle of a flying saucer. And I passed the lie detector test. Barney, I ain't never been on no flying saucer.
Fine. Well, then, Mort, you could be an expert liar.
No. You can convince yourself that you're telling the truth and prepare yourself to not be shocked by any question, and you can pass the lie detector
Well,
test.
all we know is that maybe I've never taken one. All I know is this young man was with me in California. And we couldn't bring everybody in because all we're concerned about were the dates of February 9th and the 10th. We had dinner with Marvin Page, the casting director for ABC General Hospital, who wrote letters to the district attorney saying, hey, this man was with me, signed an autographed picture, say, this is the same man had with me at 7:30 at night while in Philadelphia at 9:30, 3,000 miles away, time difference of 3 hours, where a crime was being committed.
All right, we're going to look into this a little bit further, all right? Next, free Roger Peck. I don't think so. We're going to find out why. Barney,
Yes, sir.
you've taken Roger Peck in. You've given him employment. You feel he's rehabilitated.
You should have seen him when I first met him that night. He was hyper. His conversation was a lot of full of what he called non sequiturs, but he tried to tell me a story of his life. I believed him. I believe him to this day because he never committed these crimes. He has turned his life around. He's become a technical director, a lighting and sound man at my theater. You got to go to school for something like this. This young boy didn't. The first show he worked on for me, really worked for me, beside Shea Duffin in Confession of an Irish Rebel, I produced a show called Rap Master Ronnie, by Gary Trudeau, for 6 months. The man who designed the lighting said to me, you better get a professional in here. There are 168 cues, and this kid ain't gonna make it. I said, give the boy a chance. This kid's very bright. He says, I'm not gonna take a chance. I said, as long as I'm paying you to design, do it. The long story is, he gave him the chance, came down to me in 2 hours, I apologized. This boy's not even using a script for 168 cues. He did not need a stage manager to say, cue, stand by, cue 1, go.
Okay.
Yes.
What's the name of your theater?
On Stage Theater.
On Stage. That's in
Yes, sir.
Philadelphia.
Yes, sir.
No, more.
You wait a second. You familiar with the Adonis?
Yes.
What kind of a theater is that?
That's an X-rated theater. It shows male films.
Mm-hmm. A lot of old men masturbating in the theater.
Have the slightest idea about that.
I'm told you own that theater, Barney.
I am the landlord. That is absolutely correct.
What kind of, you take care of a lot of kids, don't you?
No, sir. I happen to have, I've helped a lot of kids through the years. That I have. That's true. No, I've helped kids get off the street on drugs. That is very true. Happens to be my nature. I worked once with the Roxbury Home for Children. For 3 years, I was considered a consulting psychologist, though I'm not, from the ages 12 to 18 years of age. That's back in the 50s.
How many youngsters live with you now besides
He's
Roger?
the only one that has an apartment on my premises.
Okay. May I talk with Michelle on the telephone, please? Michelle, are you there?
Yes.
Michelle, you work at Barney's Theatre, don't you? Aren't you an actress there?
Yes, I am.
What play are you putting together now, Michelle?
We're doing Fatal Innocence.
Fatal Innocence?
Yes.
When does that play open?
It opened 2 weeks ago.
It opened 2 weeks ago. Is it playing tonight?
Yes, it is.
You're not in the play any longer?
Yes, I am.
You are?
We have no audience this evening.
You have the what?
We have no audience this evening.
You have no audience this evening.
Only a quarter to 8. The show goes on at 8 o'clock.
Okay. How long you think that show's going to run, Michelle?
Well, according to our contractual agreement, we can terminate our contract any time after September 28th.
Mm-hmm.
And we have given our notices as of yesterday, our 2-week notices of termination.
All right. Michelle, tell me about Barney. You've worked for him for a while.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Tell me about Barney. You've worked for him for a while.
I don't understand your question.
Do you know anything? Do you know Barney? Is he a friend of yours?
No.
He's not?
No, he's not.
You just work for him as an actress?
Barney is my producer.
You're a producer?
Yes.
All right. So you just work for him as an actress?
Yes.
What do you know about Roger? Is he a fun guy to work around?
I tried to keep my distance from Roger.
Why? Why is that, Michelle?
Well, according to what I know of him, which is what I know from the script that Barney has written, he is not the type of person I would like to hang around with.
Is this a script, Barney, that you wrote?
This is a story based on Roger's life, which is absolutely accurate. The things he went through as a child, up to the times the crimes were committed. That is correct. And so it's a story, it's a true story. Roger was not a nice person when he was on the street, trying to stay alive.
Michelle?
Yes.
You heard what Barney said. It's a story of the young man's life before he tried to straighten it out. And apparently now it looks as though he may have straightened it out. Do you think so?
I don't know really what to say. I am just an actor.
Michelle, just say exactly what's on your mind. No one's going to bother you.
My interpretation of the script is, if Barney's trying to make Roger appear to be a nice guy, I don't think he's done it with his script.
I'm not trying to make him a nice guy in the script, and that's what you discussed with the director. This was a story of his life, was as honest as it could possibly be, that he was a bad child trying to stay alive. He dealt in drugs? True. He was a hustler? True. And that's what's in the script. Should we have lied and told a bad story?
No, not
and
at
that
all.
is a story, and we take the story up to the end where he's been committed of these crimes, and he's waiting sentencing. And we're trying to say this young man is innocent.
It's amazing to me. I can understand several miscarriages of justice. I've seen them. All of us have seen them many times. But it's amazing to me how I can go back and count 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 miscarriages of justice with this young man being arrested for everything from murder twice, purse snatching, robbery, drugs, prostitution, car theft, armed robbery, and he's never been wrong once.
Can I say something there?
Go ahead, Roger.
Some of those I was guilty of. Some of them I'm going to say I never lied about that. Some of them are guilty of. Some of them I'm not. The murders, the rob, and the stick-ups were not. The rest of them were. You could say I was guilty. I was guilty, but the system found me innocent.
Did the person you snatched the purse from identify you?
I never snatched a purse.
Did the person who alleged you snatched the purse identify you?
Let me tell you how she identified me.
Yes or no?
Yes, Morton. Let me tell you how she identified me. I'm walking out of the police station for that drug case. The same cop that he beat me up to sign a confession for that drug case, say I stuck that guy up.
Did you sign one?
Yeah, I signed it.
For the drug case, too?
For the drug case, but the case was thrown out because the guy declined to testify. He said, when my lawyer walked over to his lawyer and said, look, if you go ahead and lie and say he stuck you up, he's going to go to the narcotics unit and tell them what you do. and tell him what really happened when he gets on the stand. And he said, I'll drop the case. He dropped the case. But the same cop that beat me up made me sign a confession saying that I stuck this guy up for $1,700 was standing outside the courtroom with a lady. And when I walked out, he said something to her, and then she said, that's the one.
How many years had that detective been on the force?
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
Has your lawyer checked to find out if there have been any other accusations against that detective?
Yes.
I know, hold on.
Did they find others?
They
Yes,
found
can I
4
say?
other guys who've been beaten by the same detective, and that's now in internal affairs also.
Okay.
The same detective beat another guy to signing 104 confessions.
That's right.
Beat him until he signed 104 confessions. He said, when he went on trial, he said that he read all these confessions to the kid, and it only took 3 hours. While he was on trial, his lawyer said to that same detective, okay, well, I'd like you to read these 104 confessions in 3 hours for us. He testified for 5 days.
Still reading the confession.
Still reading confessions.
You've heard the case. I want you to come to the loudmouths. Tell us exactly what's on your mind, any questions you have for Roger or Barney, and let's decide if we should send a message to our viewers in Philadelphia and to the judge and to the police department that this young man indeed is innocent and is a victim, or this young man, this elderly man with him, are nothing but a couple of con men, all right? We'll be back in just a minute. Come on.
The Meadowlands Hilton Hotel.
Now, in this segment, before we go to our jury, I want to hear from Barney one more time. But I want to hear from Michelle again on the telephone. Michelle, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you more.
Michelle, I understand that a friend of Barney's is standing close by to you and you feel somewhat intimidated. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Michelle, can you tell us what address or where you're speaking from right now?
2020 Sansom Street in Philadelphia, the Onstage
2020
Theater.
Sansom Street in Philadelphia. Michelle, we are now instructing the police department to dispatch a unit to that area so that you will... so that you may remain safe. Now, please, read the statement you were going to read. And Barney's friend, get the hell out of the building fast, pal.
Boy, I had no statement prepared. All I was going to do was read a letter that Barney wrote
Michelle.
to the cast last night. I was going to read segments of Barney's letter to the cast last night.
Please read it. No, please read it.
And Morton, I would like to have
I would like to hear from Michelle, sir. I'll ask for you when I want you.
Yeah, well, I'm talking to you now. So you listen to me.
Michelle, read, please.
Well, first of all, Mort, communication is broken down with our producer. He has refused to meet with us concerning some of our fears about his being in Chapter 11. And we're concerned about our salaries. And also we're concerned about the lack of promotion for the show. We have played to houses of 2 and 3
This sounds like
people.
a personal matter having to do with economics.
And yes, that's basically it. We would like to just get on with our career.
Listen, Michelle, are there any other matters you wish to discuss?
Other than economics?
Yes.
Actually, at this point, that's all we're at liberty to discuss.
Have you been paid, Michelle?
No, I have not.
When? When have you not been paid?
All right. I understand.
That is not true.
Paid by who? Dave, who are you talking to? Have I been paid by Morton Downey? No.
No, have you been paid by Barney? You've been paid every week, right?
Yes, of course I've been paid.
Of course, so you have no problem with that, right?
All right.
No,
I want to tell you, get that phone off. I want Barney to talk. I want Barney to be able to refute this and to refute the statement that was allegedly made by this young lady to one of my producers regarding pedophilia, homosexual activities, the Adonis Theatre, young people living with you. Are these strictly allegations that are unfounded?
Not only unfounded, this woman is mad.
All right.
And let me tell you about this cast.
All right, let me listen to it. Let's listen to this, please.
David Merrick, many years ago, said to me, when you produce, stay away from your actors because they are children. They'll make demands on you that you can never reach. Make sure they have clean bathrooms, clean dressing rooms, and make sure they get paid every week. These people get paid every week, and it's true. I have put my building up for sale because I own the banks $1.5 million. I am the only profit-making, so-called profit-making theater in Philadelphia. I'm not nonprofit. Unfortunately, my shows, though we got good reviews, did not make money. Okay? So Ratmaster Ronnie May played for 6 months, but I lost over $60,000 of my own money to the thing. This cast was put together to do the show. The first thing they didn't understand was my character. How could I, a man in my 60s, go out of my way to help anybody? Because nobody does that type of thing. I was criticized by the cast for trying to be altruistic and trying to be helpful. I even had to give letters that came to me over the years from people who I helped and never saw again to the man who played my character to understand I am the type that helps people. I don't care who you are. If I feel there's an injustice, I have fought for that injustice.
All right, I'm sorry if you've been unfairly accused here, all right? You have every right to defend yourself. You've helped a lot of young people, and I assume that many of them have been females as well as males.
Yes, I have.
We'll be back in just a second to talk to the audience. Someone said right before we went on, get them, kick some butt. Maybe too much butt was kicked for 21 years. Let's find out what you think.
I'm a foster parent in Philadelphia. I've got 2 foster children that were, there were 4 children involved that were sexually, physically, and emotionally abused by the mother and the mother's boyfriend, okay? They're walking the streets today because of the fantastic judicial system in Philadelphia.
I just want to know how come he was switched around from 27 foster homes. I mean, that's a bit ridiculous. 28 foster homes.
I don't know if we knew the answer to that, we'd know whether there was any problems. Let me speak to this young man. This is the audience section.
From what I can understand, I think December 6th, 1986 was the worst day of your life instead of the best day of your life.
Why?
Because that's the day he met this man here.
Go ahead.
I'd like to just say I think Roger Peck is guilty of being a burden on society and will remain that way for the next 15 to 30 years.
All right, but let me ask this. Let me ask our jury tonight, right now. Is this man guilty or not guilty, in your opinion? Let me see a show of hands for guilty. Let me see a show of hands for not guilty. Not guilty has it. Not guilty has it. Judge, we'll find out. We'll find out, and we'll bring the results of this case back to you. We'll bring the results of this case back to you. We're going to follow it all the way through to the ends, to the appeals, and everything else. Roger, if you're guilty, I personally will kick your ass. Good night, everybody.